Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a really useful tool in English grammar that can totally change the feel of your writing, the passive voice.
Okay, so check this out. Listen to this sentence. Michelangelo painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Now, let's just flip it around. The ceiling of the Sistine Chapel was painted by Michelangelo. Same info, right? But the feel is totally different. One puts the spotlight on the artist, the other shines it on the amazing artwork itself. That little shift is the magic of the passive voice, and we're going to break down exactly how it works.
So, what's really going on with that shift? Well, it all boils down to one simple thing: emphasis. Using the passive voice isn't a mistake, it's a choice. It's you, the writer, deciding exactly what you want your reader to focus on.
What it does, essentially, is take the focus off of the person or thing doing the action, that's the subject, and puts it right onto the person or thing receiving the action, the object. The object gets a promotion, It becomes the new star of the sentence.
So, that's the what, but the really big question is, when should you use it? Why would you even want to make this shift? Well, sometimes it's for sounding objective, like in a science report where the experiment matters more than the scientist. Other times, it's because you literally don't know who did the action, or maybe you want to be a little sneaky and not say who did it. Let's look at the most common reason you'll see it.
Yeah, the number one reason to use the passive voice is pretty straightforward. We either don't know who did the thing, or honestly, it just doesn't matter for the story we're trying to tell. For instance, think about the active sentence, "Someone used my phone." Who is someone? I don't know. You don't know. They're just this vague, mysterious figure. They aren't the important part of the story here.
But watch what happens when we switch to the passive. We get, "My phone was used." See that? That unimportant character, someone, just vanishes completely. Now, the focus is right where it should be, on the phone and what happened to it. Much clearer.
Okay, so we've got the why down. Let's move on to the how. And believe me, it's not as complicated as it might sound. There's a super simple formula for building a passive sentence.
Here it is, the key to the whole thing. The passive formula is just the correct form of the verb to be plus the past participle of the main verb. That's it. Just remember, be plus past participle.
Let's break that down into 4 easy steps. First, you take the object from the active sentence and make it your new subject. Second, you add the right form of the verb be, like is, are, was, or were. Third, you pop in the past participle of the main verb, like taken or made. And finally, step 4, which is totally optional. If you still want to say who did it, you can add by and then the original subject.
All right, time for some pro tips. Like any good grammar rule, this one has some really important exceptions. Let's take a look at what to watch out for, because this will help you avoid some super common mistakes.
So there are 2 main groups of verbs that just do not work in the passive voice. First, we have stative verbs. These are words that describe states, feelings, or senses, not actions, words like have, know, or like. Second are intransitive verbs. These are verbs that don't have an object, like arrive or die, and it makes perfect sense, right? If there's no object to receive an action, you can't make it the star of a passive sentence.
For example, the sentence, "Amelia is known by Thomas," just sounds weird, doesn't it? That's because know is a stative verb. It's describing a state of mind, not an action that Thomas is actually doing to Amelia. And here's a classic example with an intransitive verb. You would never, ever say, "His goldfish was dyed." Why not? Because die is something the goldfish does, not something that is done to it. There's just no object there.
Okay, that's enough theory. The best way to learn this stuff is by actually doing it. So, let's put what you've learned to the test with a little practice round. Ready?
All right, first one. How would you change this sentence into the passive voice? Rodin made the thinker. Take a second, think about the object, and remember that formula, be plus past participle. Did you get it? It's the thinker was made by Rodin. We just take the object, the thinker, and make it the subject. Since it happened in the past, we use was, and the past participle of make is made. Easy.
Let's go again. Can we change this sentence? Valentina bought the chips and soda. If so, what would it sound like?
Yep, the chips and soda were bought by Valentina. Now, the key thing here is that our new subject, the chips and soda, is plural. That means we have to use were instead of was. You've always got to make sure your be verb agrees with your new subject.
Okay, last one. And pay close attention here. This one is a little tricky.
Can you make this sentence passive? The basketball team played well.
It's a trick. You can't do it. But why? Because the phrase played well doesn't have an object. The word well just describes how they played. It's not a thing that received the action. So in this particular sentence, play is acting as an intransitive verb, which means it can't be made passive. Gotcha.
And that is our deep dive into the passive voice. See, it's not just some stuffy old grammar rule. It's a really dynamic tool for adding clarity and changing the emphasis of your sentences. So now the real question is, how are you going to use this power to make your own writing even better? Thanks for watching.